Does this include Islam? Yes. It also includes Christianity. That being the case, I refuse to accept the claim that one of these is the smallest modicum better than the other. Iraq is a predominantly Muslim nation. The United States is predominantly Christian. Which one has invaded and occupied which? Algeria is predominantly Muslim. France is predominantly Christian, especially at the time. Which occupied which? Bush would never have been able to muster enough support in this country to make the invasion of Iraq happen without the support of the evangelical bloc. How did he get that support? By telling them that this is what God commanded him to do. Did he provide any evidence to back up this claim? No. Did they ask for any? No. That would have demonstrated a lack of faith, or a weakness of faith, since evidently in this context, faithful is a euphemism for gullible. So now, because the evangelicals were strong in their faith, hundreds of thousands of human beings lie dead, and hundreds of thousands more have been seriously, sometimes cripplingly, and permanently wounded. But this receives less consideration because the human beings in question happen to be Muslim. Look at the goings-on in Gitmo and Abu Ghraib. Look at the waterboarding, simulated executions, and threatening with power tools. Why do such events so horrify us? Because they entail treating human beings as less than human. If God belief is the source of all morality, then no believer has any business having any difficulty seeing how wrong that is. I have been presented many times with the message that Muslims are just dangerous because they are Muslims. I have unfriended and unsubscribed from people for this. I have even ended up blocking a few of the especially zealous. Such rhetoric can only serve the end of denying Muslims the freedoms of belief and expression, basic human rights. I don't understand why it's so hard to come down on sophistry without taking aim at fundamental human rights. I manage it pretty easily. I don't understand why effort after effort to condemn and oppose injustices committed by Muslims has to result in condoning injustices committed against them. I will not be party to such rhetoric. It is hypocritical to object to the use of one dehumanizing label, but not also the use of another. My objection to organized dogmatism of any sort is fundamentally the knack it has for trampling fundamental human rights and dignity. I therefore frequently find myself in opposition to any organized effort to that end, especially efforts that claim that such is just or justified. If such leaves me in a position to ridicule Islam while doing my best to defend Muslims, then so be it. I am also presented with this claim that Islam is an intrinsically violent religion. This is bullshit. No religion is intrinsically violent. No religion with any noticeable following can be. Look at the pattern. A is a member of a certain religion. B is a prospective convert. A strikes up a conversation with B. Shortly, A steers the conversation to his religion and points to parts of its doctrine that speak highly of the importance of peace. These parts of the doctrine are called teachings, in order to pave the way for the claim that the religion in question teaches peace, and to suggest that the more people who convert to this particular religion, the more peaceful the world will be. All this is done in order to impress B, in order to encourage B to relax whatever standards of scrutiny he or she may already practice, in the hope that B may become more receptive to A's pitch. Now, why do the messages that speak of the importance of peace impress B so much? Because B already understands the value of peace, laments the existence of violent conflict, and wishes to associate with efforts to make the world more peaceful, and A knows it. Therefore, if the religion in question didn't pay lip service to peace, it would have no appeal to B, and subsequently no ability to recruit B. This particular example relies on peace, because most people understand the value of peace. The same could be said of truth, because most people understand the value of truth, but don't understand just how elusive full comprehension of it is. Therefore, any organized religion must have a way to present itself as promoting peace and tolerance and representing truth, or lose its following to a religion that does. Consider the trenches of the First World War. I don't remember exactly which year of it this happened, but one of those holiday seasons. The soldiers in the trenches called a ceasefire, and the soldiers on both sides actually climbed out of the trenches and celebrated the holidays together. Thereafter followed a very interesting disagreement. It seems that soldiers from the British trenches were certain that they were the ones fighting for peace, while soldiers in the German trenches insisted that they were. Consider an old piece of conservative rhetoric. If you want peace, prepare for war. After all, if you're prepared for war, no one will attack you, since you're prepared. I would not discount this argument completely, but if meritable, it's surely an oversimplification. After all, look at 2003. Bush and friends proliferated this notion that Iraq was developing weapons of mass destruction. It wasn't true, but that aside, how did we react to this image of another nation arming itself? Oh, they're preparing for war. It must be because they want peace. After all, if they're prepared for war, no one will attack them, since they're prepared. Of course not. We said to ourselves, oh, they're preparing for war. Why would they prepare for war? They must want war. We'll give them one. Why is it that this argument justifies our weapons and our aggressive bellicose posturing, but not theirs? How can such rhetoric justify the militarization of one party, but not that of another? How, unless by a double standard? Now it just so happens that many a widespread problem in the Islamic world is due to corruption in high office there, but also in the Western world. It's a simple matter for a skilled propagandist to paint the problems in the Islamic world as problems of Islam. It's also a simple matter, having done that, to paint the instigators of those problems as enemies of Islam. Having done this, if one is going to insist that Islam is the religion of peace, and that the instigators of problems in the Islamic world are enemies of Islam, it's not a big leap to begin painting these instigators as the enemies of peace. The soldiers from the British trenches were willing to fight the soldiers from the German trenches because they saw them as the enemies of peace. The soldiers from the German trenches were willing to fight the soldiers from the British trenches because they saw them as the enemies of peace. The United States was willing to support the war with Iraq because we saw the governing party as the enemy of peace. It seems to me that I am well-founded to conclude that the 9/11 hijackers were able to morally justify to themselves their attack on this nation because they had been trained to see this nation and those in charge of it in the same way. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that each person watching this video values peace. Perhaps I'm mistaken in a bare handful of cases, but no more than that. I'm now going to go a step further and say that each of you knows your various friends and associates well enough to know the same about them.